Hi everyone, this is my very first video, but I wanted to film my October theme as I was really excited about this. So I'm doing a Momo from Avatar plus some pumpkins because October is pumpkin season. So I like to first sketch out my design on I can't even talk today. I like to first sketch out the drawing, especially because I really wasn't sure how to draw this. I pulled up some pictures on the internet of Momo to kind of get a sense of how to draw him, and you can see that I was hesitating a lot because I was just not sure if this was going to turn out the way that I envisioned it originally. So there's going to be a lot of erasing, a lot of redrawing in this video, but hopefully you appreciate the rawness of kind of what's going on in my mind as I'm trying to sketch this out. So here we are, we're drawing it in. I'm hesitating a little bit. I didn't like the way the ear was shaping up. It just didn't seem even, so I'm redrawing that and trying to fix the little tufts of hair that Momo has in his ears and drawing that out real quickly. It's such a process, honestly, sketching and like trying to figure out where things fit best, honestly. And the sketching part's definitely the hardest for me. I think it's where I feel the most insecure about my art because I never got formal art training, and so even just trying to figure out dimensions and figuring out how things look on paper versus how they looked in my head, it's definitely challenging. And that's why I do really encourage those of you who also aren't trained artists but just love to doodle, love to draw. Definitely encourage you to not give up. Definitely keep doing what you love. And honestly, I think that it all will come to fruition, and practice makes perfect, so you'll just get better as you go. So now I'm trying to draw some pumpkin leaves. I wanted to kind of create this vines like effect with the very big leaves that pumpkins have when they sprout in the pumpkin patches. They kind of look like maple leaves, to be honest, in a way, or maybe I just don't know my leaves at all, but just sketching these out. They are pretty easy to draw, actually. You just start with the bottom and then just draw like 3 triangles and you're set if you want the big ones. They can turn out a little bit flat sometimes, but I think that's a pretty cool effect. And then I'm just scripting out October. Thought a simple one would do for this page considering the complexity of the drawing. And so now I'm going to outline everything in black. This is also one of the most scary parts for me when drawing because sometimes my hand just does not listen to my brain and I have to like go back and sketch it in, and it's just such a process. Okay, now that I finished color swatching, picking out the colors that I think would fit this theme best, I low-key forgot what each color looked like, and so I went back in and I swatched them again. And Momo has this interesting pattern on his ears where it's kind of like a stripe, and so I went in with different shades of brown, and I was looking at his picture as I was coloring this, and I realized that my colors are a lot darker than he is, but I didn't have the colors that Momo actually is. So I'm working with what I have, and I think it actually is turning out pretty well. I try to focus on kind of creating more of a fall foliage color scheme effect, and I like it so far. I mean, I'm coloring in his face now, and I realized that I like the white tufts of hair coming out of his ears rather than leaving it the same color of his body. So I changed that. Now I'm coloring in the leaves, re-adding in the vines, and I low-key wish I left the pencil sketch in because it looked so much better. But what's done is done. And so now going back in with the Tombow to add some accents to Momo as well as the vines. And now it's time to color in the pumpkin. And I don't know how I came up with this really weird pattern. I think it's because I was going around his hand and it just continued, and I tried to fix it in the middle, but didn't really work. But I actually ended up really liking the texture of the pumpkin. I think it gave it a little bit more character than just straight up coloring it. And outlining the leaves now and using some different shades of green to create a little bit of contrast. And I really like the way the leaves turned out. I'm trying to add a little bit more depth by darkening the edges and then adding the veins in with my Muji gel pen. And my favorite part of every spread is always adding these little white accents. I think it just brings out whatever colors you're using, and it just brings out the doodles in general. Like this versus the non-white accent version makes such a difference. And now I'm coloring in Momo's tail. He has these little stripes, and I colored over my black outline a bit and then made the line a little too thick by accident. So I go back in with my Micron pen to emphasize the outline, and I wanted to do it to the pumpkin too. And so adding some accents at the edge, and I think it actually helped create a little bit more depth. So I was actually pretty happy with the way it ended up turning out. And now we're just scripting October at the top with my go-to brush pen, which is the Tombow Fudenoske. This is the hard tip version, and if you're just starting calligraphy, definitely recommend this pen over any soft tip calligraphy pen, even Tombow's. I had to honestly master using the hard tip and knowing where to place pressure before I could even try to use brush lettering with Tombow's, and I still struggle with it. It's still something I'm practicing, so definitely works in progress. Anyway, just putting a little orange outline to make the actual drawing pop, and I actually really like how this turned out. I was really happy with it. And now currently looking up a quote to put on my quote page for October. So I found this quote online, and I wanted it to be from Avatar to go along with the theme, and I also wanted it to be something that could be a good reflection for me when I am feeling complacent, especially. I think as I've started to live on my own, and also since I'm working full-time for the first time now, it's really easy to kind of just get caught up with where I am and not really realize what point I'm at, whether I'm at a high point or low point, or just kind of staying complacent. And so I want to have a quote that really reminds me of understanding where change comes from. And I think that this quote holds truth, but I also think that I'd want to expand it to beyond my lowest point. It's really, you experience change when you realize you've been stagnant for so long, and that, I guess, in a way is hitting your low point, since that realization is there. And so I think that it was just very relevant for someone starting a new job, being in a new city, going on a new adventure. So I tried some new lettering with this quote. I wanted to practice blending pens more, so I blended a Tombow and a Crayola Supertip, which I've never tried, but it actually turned out pretty well. And of course I have my little white accents to bring out the other colorful component in this quote, and I'm just drawing some pumpkins here just to add to the theme and to make it a little bit more fall-y. And I added the same border, and I'm showing you guys the colors I used. And now we're going to move on to the monthly layout. And so I'm a big fan of the vertical layout for monthlies. I have tried the grid layout, I've tried other layouts, 1 pagers, 2 pagers, and this is kind of just what's worked for me. I just think that it's the easiest way for me to see when all the events are, and it saves a lot of space since it's only on 1 page and I don't have to draw a bunch of grid boxes. And so I just write all the dates down vertically, and I'm drawing some pumpkins here again to keep with the theme and the consistency, coloring it a little bit faster, not as textured as the one on the first page, but I think it still works. And I accidentally used the wrong colored pen for the vines, but it seems like it's working. Alright, going back in with the white accents to create a little more depth to the pumpkin, adding the veins and the accents also to the leaves. And now I'm going to move over to my habit tracker. I always refer back to my previous ones because sometimes I low-key forget what habits I track. But also, last month I started using this app called Notion, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know what it is, but essentially it's like a digital bullet journal, and it does a really good job of formatting, templating, and you can choose different designs that you want. And I found it easier to track certain habits via Notion versus in my bullet journal. So I decided to only include the 4 habits that I actively track in my bullet journal and then leave the rest on Notion. I'm still trying to figure out that balance between digital habit tracking, planning versus bullet journaling, but I guess that's another goal for me this month, is to just be able to balance both, or figure out a system that works best for me. So I'm writing out the 4 habits that I'm tracking, and I use a different style than I usually use. I usually just have the grid boxes as you see there and then color it in, but wanted something different. Anyway, so now going to the last monthly-ish spread for the month, it is going to be a reading tracker / reflection page. And I've always loved reading when I was younger, but as I got older, the number of books I read per year drastically decreases. And so I'm setting a pretty low bar. Well, actually, I guess this is a high bar for myself, considering I haven't really read that many books as of late, but I do really want to get back into casual reading since I'm done school. And so I wrote out this month's reads as a mini spread for October and left some room for me to rate the book as well as write a little bit what I thought. So if you guys have any book suggestions, please feel free to send them my way. I'm still on the hunt for my 2 books to read for this month. And here I'm just finishing up by writing out the rest of September's to-dos / tasks, just because the month ends in the middle of the week. And so I want to just be able to have the to-dos that are unfinished on the right page. And that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I loved making it. And please subscribe below if you're interested in seeing more bullet journal content. Bye!